And we are live. Welcome to our episode of Business Focus Live with me, John, where we talk about business related topics as well as news from here around the world. If new to this channel, don't forget to subscribe and let's get started. And we're back. Today is June 19th on a Friday. So thank you for all the viewers who are able to join me today. So today we'll be talking about different things. Example of the state of the small businesses in the United States as well as here in our country, and as well as what's happening with Huawei and the dispute between two different nations from China as well as in the United States. And later on, we'll be discussing some local news, so stay tuned. Uh, to begin with, so for most of you are already familiar with the company of Huawei, one of the largest manufacturing smartphones. Actually, they're the second largest manufacturing smartphone worldwide, only behind Samsung. And they're also known as, not known, no, sorry. They're also one of the largest or the largest telecommunications manufacturer in the world. So what's this got to do with the dispute between China and other countries, US and other European countries? So as always, as it relates to the 5G technology that we already discussed in weeks past. So different nations, different countries are at an arms race in terms of how to develop or who will be the first to develop or implement or be a world leader in terms of 5G technology. Now, as many of you already know, 5G technology will revolutionize how internet access will be implemented. So right now we're at fourth generation technology, meaning we use mobile data to connect with cell towers to gain access to internet accessibility. But with 5G, it will be enhanced significantly in terms of faster connection speed, upload and download speed, wherein it used to be took hours to watch an entire film or movie. Now you can download it several minutes, but with 5G, it would be at instantaneous. By the time you load it, it would be able to show you the entire film instantaneously. And again, so what's this got to do with the dispute? So how does it affect the company Huawei as a whole? Now, obviously, they're leading in terms of developing or have been developing and actually implementing it in different nations apart from China. But the concerns of many nations, as mentioned by the United States as well as the United Kingdom in terms of security concerns because of its close ties with the Chinese government. So what the U.S. government did was to limit or restrict the sales of goods and technologies from U.S. companies with partnering up with Huawei company. But with the latest development here, and according to the article here at Reuters, you can see here, let me just switch it off. You can see here that it was stated that according to the Commerce Department, US companies can work again with Huawei company. And this is according to the US State Commerce Department. They have already signed off with the rule change. Where is it? For a while. There you go. According to the US Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross, confirmed the action of the rule change. Now, he stated that the United States will not cede leadership in global innovation. And he also stated that the department is committed to protecting U.S. national security and foreign policy interests by encouraging U.S. industry to fully engage and advocate for U.S. technologies to become international standards. Now, what does this mean? Now, obviously, restricting transactions or partnering with, let's say, if you're Google or Intel and other U.S. companies that has connections with Huawei, has making it difficult for them to continue the process of developing the 5G technology. And right now, whoever will be first, will be able to dictate in terms of what type of technologies, standards, setting of standards for the world market. So in terms of wireless technology, the equipment, uh, how will high-speed video transmissions will be implemented, all the way to self-driving vehicles. Now, obviously, last year, this was totally different, and where in the United States placed Huawei, according to Commerce Department, on a so-called entity list, which restricts sales of U.S. goods and technologies to the said company, citing national security. So, question is why the sudden change of opinion, or not opinion, sorry, why the sudden change of policy? It was stated by the government or industry and government officials that this should not be viewed as a sign of weakening of U.S. resolve against Huawei. Now, obviously, Huawei is the largest telecommunications equipment maker. So, apart from them, uh, many nations are not yet prepared to implement or make it cost effective in terms of cost wise. Uh, some haven't even implemented their 5G infrastructures. Such are European countries due to the pandemic that is ongoing. On the other hand, for other telecommunications in the United States, they've been relying so much on Huawei technologies because it's more cheaper and easier to set up compared to what they set up as of the moment. So, question is, why the sudden change? Is it simply because of the many businesses are affected in terms of what type of business Huawei brings into many U.S. businesses? Now, how will this turn out? How will this look at a global perspective? And what's ironic here is, if you're familiar with Mr. Mike Pompeo, who is the U.S. State's Secretary of State, he's planning to meet, or he will meet, with Chinese officials regarding the collaborations again from Huawei and other U.S. companies regarding the 5G technology, despite having the tensions between the two countries regarding the pandemic as well as the trade war that is occurring. Now, whether it's to the detriment of the country or the United States, at the end of the day, we're a global economy reliant from one another to bring business and help one another, regardless of how one perceives each other. Continuing in the technology side, for those who are familiar with Mr. Elon Musk, who's associated with SpaceX as well as what they call this, with Tesla vehicles, you might be familiar, you might be hearing more of this with Starlink. Now, Starlink is a satellite constellation being constructed by SpaceX, which is owned by Mr. Musk, to provide satellite internet. Now, if you're familiar with satellite internet, if you're not familiar with satellite internet, you might already heard of satellite phone, where you can call anywhere in the world using satellite technology to communicate with one another. And this is with the same technology. Instead of making phone calls, you can connect to the internet using satellite technology. So meaning whether you're in North Pole, the Sahara Desert, or in the South Pole, you can constantly, or you have constant access to the internet without interruption. So you can just imagine 5-10 years from now, people are having a difficult time connecting to the internet. It will become faster, hopefully cheaper, and accessible to everyone. So Starlight might be the biggest space undertaking once it's completed. What do I mean by biggest space undertaking? So SpaceX is providing global satellite internet access. So with its constellation consisting of thousands of mass-produced small satellites that is orbiting in low orbit around Earth's atmosphere, and it can nearly or even surpass the mass of the International Space Station, for those who are familiar. And according to Mr. Elon Musk, he plans to expand Starlink's reach of roughly 12,000 satellites orbiting our planet. So I mean, you can just imagine a few years from now, several thousands of satellites orbiting to provide you access, constant access of internet services. What a future to look forward to. Continuing, what was it? Yes. Speaking of retail, the federal government in the United States is concerned regarding the failures of many small businesses that are occurring right now. So let's take a look here. There you go. So as you can see, according to the Reuters article, they stated that according to the feds, a large number of small U.S. businesses could fail, are actually failing, if you think about it, during the recession that is occurring because of the coronavirus, due to slow recovery, as well as creating lasting damage to the world's largest economy. Now, think about this. If this is occurring in the United States, which is one of the market leaders, largest economy, how about in our country where we're still developing and we're grasping for air? And according to the Fed, they stated that the nature of the economic recovery that follows the COVID-19 crisis will depend in part on the survival of many small businesses. Now, one good thing that the Congress has already adopted is by providing a lifeline to many of these businesses, small businesses at that, by infusing $660 billion worth to cover payrolls as well as overhead costs. Now, 3/4 of small businesses have already applied for said aid and getting the funding, but many industries are already facing may need more fund in the future weeks, months, or even the following year. Question is, where will the fund come from and what will happen to those businesses? At worst, many have already suffered, have to close permanently, have filed for bankruptcies, and many such. Now, does this have any major repercussions to an economy? Yes, there is. Many small businesses account nearly half of the jobs in the private sectors, and this has already contributed to a steep decline of new business formation. So many are not inclined or encouraged to start their own business at this moment. And according to the Fed, they already stated that business failures not only destroy jobs, increase unemployment rates, and provide support or be able to pay their taxes to support the economy. They also erase the productive knowledge within firms, deplete the assets of business owners, alter the character of communities and neighborhoods, and in some cases deprive the country of innovation. Now, as you can clearly see in the United States, with unemployment at an all-time high, many businesses are suffering. Riots are occurring because of civil unrest from many people who are significantly affected. So government has to do their part to step in and help those people and businesses, as well as the financial institutions who can provide the financial aid that is necessary to stabilize the economy. Continuing with local news, so for those who are interested to find out what's the status of our economy, you might be surprised to find out, for those who have already, many places that have already transitioned to a general community quarantine, you are now allowed to frequent your favorite restaurants on a limited dine-in experience, which I was able to experience yesterday. I was doing an errand, and I was able to visit a restaurant favorite of mine, Aristocrat, and I was able to dine in and had a totally different experience from what we were used to pre the outbreak. So, according to the reports, so restaurants are now allowed to resume their business on a limited dine-in operation, in particular in Metro Manila as well as in other areas under general community quarantine. Now, according to the Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez, the Interagency Task Force, or IATF, have already given the go signal for restaurants to resume dining operation up to 30% capacity starting June 15. And according to them, he stated, malaking portion ng operasyon ng mga restaurant ang dine-in. Mga 70 to 80% po yan, kaya mahalaga po, diyan po nakasalalay yung trabaho ng maraming kababayan natin. I think this doesn't just apply to restaurants, but as well as other retail businesses that is, supporting many employees or many staff members. That's why it's important that businesses return to operation. Obviously, there are still concerns regarding the safety parameters in terms of we want to avoid a second wave of cases. Right now, we're still in a trajectory of increased cases. Right now, we're almost reaching the 30,000 mark. So hopefully, things will be better and it will go down and normalize, hopefully eliminate the number of cases as a whole. Now, many places are still under general community quarantines. Apart from Metro Manila, as I mentioned earlier, we have Central Luzon, Cagayan Valley, Calabarzon, Central Visayas, Pangasinan, Mandaue City, Zamboanga City, Davao City, and Cebu City. Now, we're still considered under general lockdown, but have already shifted to general community quarantine, while other areas have already shifted to a modified general community quarantine. So restaurants can have dine-in operations up to 50% if the areas have already shifted from modified lockdown, which is good news for many people. Being cooped up inside the house for several months is not ideal for anyone. Not only for restaurants, but as well as for salons and barbershop. You might be surprised to know, while I was having my lunch there, I was able to see many businesses have already returned to operations. Now for salons, I've seen some have remained closed up to today, while some stores or barbershops, I think it was Bruno's, was open for business already by providing haircuts for men. And according to the DTI, Department of Trade and Industry, has released guidelines regarding the ensuring health safety for dining operations. So this includes providing floor markings and table dividers for social distancing. I was surprised to find out when I was seated in front of my table, there's a divider, plastic of sorts, to avoid any contact with other people. But obviously, a limited capacity, you don't get to see many people at all. And implementing a no mask, no end. I don't know if this is reasonable inside a restaurant. Now, for other establishment, this is a must. Now, for kitchen-based employees, must be placed in groups according to their task, provide contactless transactions methods, and small trays for accepting cash. Now, obviously, you can still use your credit card, but if the government wants to encourage cashless transactions, then we need to improve our means of paying apart from typical cash basis or credit card. You could use a QR code like in China, so it will be seamless, so there will be less contact with people. So how is it going in your areas? So are you able to go out again and have lunch or dinner outside, or just take takeouts? And finally, for our last topic, speaking of online sellers, the Department of Finance are firm on listing taxing online sellers. Now, we've already discussed this weeks before or in previous live stream. The government is trying to find ways to generate revenue to combat the outbreak that we're encountering. Now, obviously, trying to find ways to generate revenue is a daunting task, and one of the many ways that they started formulating is in terms of taxing online platforms such as Netflix and music streaming services like Spotify. Now they're targeting online sellers with the likes of they're already taxing with the likes of Zalora and Shopee and so forth. But what they're trying to focus here is on the many small businesses that are are capitalizing on the pandemic, wherein big businesses for online retail is predominant. So this is one of their ways to be able to generate additional revenue for the government. But questions here is, many people or many small businesses are very apprehensive in terms of burdening rather than helping the people who are trying to cope with the economic crisis caused by the pandemic. But at the end of the day, if you're the government, you want to encourage businesses to register, to pay their taxes, then you can generate the necessary revenue. But on the other hand, rather than focus on increasing your revenue, why not focus on what budget that you do have, and ensure that the budget that you do have goes to the appropriate or to the actual projects that is needed or necessary to help our fellow countrymen, as well as build infrastructure. Because generating revenue is a difficult, daunting task. Collecting regularly on a yearly basis, with the pandemic that's occurring, if we don't have that proper allocation, what will happen to our fellow countrymen who needs the support from our government? Now, obviously, you want to encourage businesses to register with the BIR and pay their taxes, but obviously, the government has to provide incentives as to when do businesses apply for registry. There should be a protection or aid in terms of, like in this case, in times of crisis, they should be able to raise funds and support their businesses as well as their fellow staffers or employees. Now, they've already targeted video and music streaming, as I mentioned earlier, as well as online shopping sites, and as well as advertisement on social media. Question is, how are you going to keep track of all of this digital medium? We're already having difficulty keeping track of non-traditional digital economy-based businesses. So we have to wait and see what will happen next. So stay tuned for that one. I'll keep everyone updated. And that concludes our discussion for today's live stream. Now, if you have any question, feel free to leave your comments down below and I will get back to you. Also, don't forget to hit the notification bell icon so you can stay updated with the latest videos as well as news. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you again next week. Same time, same channel. Take care. Cue the outro. End stream.